The night is young, though no cities tick with electric light to measure its hours. A hush rolls over the warm Cretaceous sea like a tide that never tires, its foamy breath slipping between chalk-white cliffs and pebble coves where time itself seems to sleep. Before we begin, I would love to know where in the world you are listening from, and what's the time there. Let us know in the comments. Thank you so much for being the part of my community. Let's get started. In the dimness before moonrise, the water glimmers with living lanterns, tiny creatures pulsing blue beneath each slow ripple, like starlight that lost its way and slipped down to dream upon the waves. From high above, the wind drifts low, unhurried and maternal, stroking the sea's dark back before rising again toward terraces of rock that overhang the shore. Here, on a scoop of pale sand sheltered beneath those limestone shoulders, a single egg lies cradled in warmth and quiet expectation. The egg is no larger than a cupped human hand. Its shell blushes soft coral pink, mottled with ivory flecks that catch stray moonbeams and scatter them in whispers against the sand. Inside, a heartbeat taps out a patient rhythm, steady as surf. Every few moments the egg quivers, as though answering the hush that enfolds it. No predator prowls nearby. The colony roosts safely on the ledges above, leathery wings folded, crests inclined like crimson pennants in dream-slow wind. Tonight, the cliff is a cathedral of sleep, tier upon tier of shadowed nooks where adult pteranodons rest after their long circuits above the sea. Far out from the limestone promontory, a warm inland sea stretches toward a horizon blurred by marine haze. In daylight, this water blazes aquamarine. At night, it becomes a mirror so deep it seems to swallow the stars. Shoals of silver fish slide beneath the surface, rewriting constellations in quicksilver. Occasionally, a long-necked elasmosaur rises for breath, mist curling from its jaws as if it has swallowed fragments of cloud. The water here is shallow but wide, warm as breath, and dappled with patchworks of seagrass that sway like suspended ribbons. The shore behind the nesting cliff is no less alive. Low pines and aromatic cycads fringe a labyrinth of tidal pools, each one a secret garden of anemones unfurling like delicate fireworks. Hermit crabs rummage for new homes among cemented corals, while horse-tailed dragonflies flicker overhead, their wings iridescent manuscripts describing ancient wind. Some nights, small feathered dinosaurs wander through the underbrush, toe claws ticking, golden eyes reflecting moonlight, like coins tossed up from the tide's black purse before falling softly back to sand. To the south, a braided delta fans into the sea, carrying silt from distant volcanic slopes. On the far bank, herds of hadrosaurs graze beneath ginkgo canopies, their low bellows drifting across the flats until even the waves pause to listen. The hatchling cannot hear them. Shell still muffles the world, but the vibrations of their footsteps travel through the ground, filtering upward to the sand where the egg rests. They are part of the world's heartbeat, as essential as the tide. And so, even the tiniest grains of sand grow still, listening. Storms, too, proclaim themselves long before they arrive, clouds massing like cathedrals of pearl and ink, lightning flickering in silent rehearsal far over the horizon. Yet this evening, no tempest threatens. The atmosphere is as gentle as a mother's whisper. Calm reigns. Calm in which a new being may gather courage. Calm in which the first flutter of a new heartbeat can be heard. Above the cliff, an avisaur, a small, tooth-beaked bird, hardly larger than a finch, perches on a salt-bleached branch. It peers downward with curious tilt, sensing motion below. For an instant, the bird glows in stray moonlight, then flickers away, leaving only a drifting feather that lands beside the paling shell upon the beach. While the colony slumbers, echoes of deeper ages flow through the stone. Minerals remember each ripple of pressure, each whisper of storm. In those memories lie bones of earlier flyers, long-tailed dreamers of the Jurassic dawn, pressed close together in a library of vanished motion. The hatchling's egg rests beyond those pages, yet the page it will write is already anticipated by the rock, geology humming a silent welcome. And what of the sky? It is vast, yes, but also intimate, for it bends low to kiss the sea and dives into every lung. The hatchling's wings, still wrapped tight in membrane, are spun of bone struts thin as willow shoots. They are too delicate to bear its weight today, yet within weeks they will harness unseen rivers of updraft along the cliff face. The sky does not mind waiting. It has waited eons for these small bones to unfold and claim the air. The moon sails higher, and with each heartbeat the crack along the shell widens by the width of a thought. A tiny claw emerges, flexes, withdraws, testing reality. Fluid beads upon warm sand, a pearl of new beginning. A land crab scuttles forward to taste the droplet, then retreats, leaving calligraphic runes no eye will read. Every small act belongs to a larger hush, a lullaby orchestrated by earth, water, stone, and wind. Moments stretch like golden syrup, thick, sweet, inevitable. The hatchling presses again. More shell falls away, revealing a circle of membrane that glistens like dawn. A cooler current sweeps along the beach, scented with night-blooming cycads, sliding over the exposed wing and quickening instinct. This is the touch of wind, the promise of height. Yet arrival is only half the story. Belonging will take every heartbeat to learn. Nearby, surf thunders once in darkness, a note deep enough to rattle embryonic cartilage. The hatchling pauses, listening, its heart sinking with that pulse. Stars tilt, rearranging themselves into myths only nocturnal travelers will know. A troodont rustles in distant brush, eyes bright, but gravity and wind have cast an accord tonight. Nothing will disturb this fragile beginning. And so the world waits. Ammonites spiraling beneath the waves, comets tracing ink across the heavens, every fragment of creation holding its breath at the courage of a creature no longer than a human hand. In that trembling beak and those folded pinions lies the architecture of continents yet unexplored, skies yet unnamed. One day, this small flyer will read thermals and turn them into poetry. High on the ledge, the mother withdraws her gaze, satisfied for now with the slow progress below. She tucks her broad crest against her neck and settles again, half-lidded eyes still keen. In dreams, she revisits her own hatching, the first time she felt the sea reflect sky into her outstretched wings, the first moment she tasted speed. Those memories drift through her slumber, mingling with wind-blown scents of brine and cedar. Far in the distance, beyond the calm lagoon, tectonic fissures rumble softly beneath the seabed, pushing molten rock toward the surface in slow exhalations of heat. Pillars of steam rise into darkness, feeding clouds that will one day deliver rain to this unborn child. Everything is connected. Lava to cloud, cloud to rain, rain to river, river to sea, sea to wing. The hatchling's first breath will taste not only of salt, but of mountains unborn, forests still dreaming beneath distant skies. The shell splits with a subdued sigh, and for the first time the hatchling's eyes, opaline, moon-ringed, still filmed with natal membrane, catch a glimmer of the universe. Light slides into its mind like water into thirsty soil. Sand glows, waves shimmer, air moves in slow eddies dense enough to see. A tremor passes through the tiny body, a premonition of the lift that will one day carry it above cloud palaces. The child of air rests, eyelids drooping, heart galloping toward strength. Seawater sighs, recedes, leaves ripples that catch moonlight like scales. The wind combs delicate fingers through newborn crest and downy skin, drying fluid, cooling fever. It is a baptism, a benediction. But sleep tugs insistently, and the hatchling surrenders. Wingtip slack, beak resting against a shard of shell, breath evening out until it is just another rhythm threaded into the tapestry of night. Dawn remains hours away. Challenges, wonders, and journeys wait beyond the hinge of sunrise. For now, there is only the lullaby of waves, the lantern-lit sea, and the pulse of a tiny heart swaddled in the vastness of time. The story pauses here, midway between dream and waking, holding its breath until the first light sings across the water. And in that hush, beneath patient constellations, the hatchling gathers strength for the next breath, the next push, the next widening of its new world. The first hint of dawn arrives not as light, but as a hush, a subtle change in the quality of the air, the way it holds its breath before the sun's first syllable. Far out to sea, the waves shift from a deep, sleeping black to a blue, softened by the promise of day. The newborn stirs, a tremor passing through its narrow shoulders, the folded triangles of its wings twitching as if they already remember something the body has not yet learned. A pale blush stains the horizon, and with it comes the wind, slow, warm, carrying the scent of salt and resin from the shoreline pines. The breeze curls around the hatchling's small frame, lifting the edge of a still damp wingtip, brushing over the fine down that clings to its neck. It is not yet strong enough to stand, but the wind's caress is an invitation all the same, a whispered greeting from the great space it will one day call home. Above, the cliffs stir with life. The colony is waking. Soft croons echo along the limestone ledges, each call answering another in a loose, unhurried chorus. Pteranodon adults step from their nests to stretch their vast wings, crests catching the newborn light like banners. Some take to the air immediately, gliding out over the sea in long, unbroken arcs, letting the updrafts lift them with no more effort than breathing. Others remain close, preening the dust of sleep from their wing membranes, their movements slow, almost ceremonial. The mother descends from her high perch, talons curling into the sandy shelf where her chick lies. She folds her wings, lowering her head until her long, slender beak hovers just above the hatchling. A low hum thrums from her throat. Not quite a call, not quite a song, but a vibration the chick can feel through the sand beneath its body. It answers with a faint, breathy squeak, its voice thin but clear in the still air. From the sea, she brings the first meal, a small fish, still glistening with saltwater pearls. She tilts her head, guiding the food into the hatchling's open beak. The taste is sharp and new, a rush of cold brine and life that fills its tiny stomach and sets a warmth blooming there. The chick swallows greedily, though the effort leaves it panting, eyelids fluttering. The meal will bring strength, not all at once, but in steady, invisible threads that will weave into muscle and bone in the days ahead. The sun climbs higher, spilling gold over the water and turning the chalk cliffs to ivory fire. The hatchling blinks into the light, eyes adjusting from the softness of night to the brilliance of morning. Shapes sharpen, the shimmer of wet rock, the intricate fractals of shells scattered along the sand, the restless dance of the tide. Every sound is a story, the crackle of drying kelp, the hiss of the foam, the whisper of air sliding past stone. Hours pass in a gentle rhythm. The chick dozes beneath the mother's shadow, waking only when the colony's calls shift, a signal that the tide has turned and the fishing grounds are rich again. Between naps, it tries to lift its head higher, testing the strength in its neck, or pushes against the sand with its narrow forelimbs, the beginnings of a clumsy crawl. The wings, still small compared to the body, unfurl a little more each time, catching light along their thin edges like the veins of a new leaf. By afternoon, the wind grows livelier. It slips under the chick's half-spread wings and rocks it gently, as if encouraging it to remember. The sensation is thrilling, a hint of what it might be to move without touching the ground. The hatchling freezes, holding its wings open just long enough to feel the invisible lift before gravity claims it again. The mother watches from a short distance, her crest tilting in quiet approval. Evening drapes itself over the colony in silken layers of coral and violet. The air cools, carrying the faint metallic scent of the sea's breath. Adults return from their long flights, wings dark against the burning sky, each one folding neatly upon landing. They exchange low calls as they settle in, the sound mingling with the constant heartbeat of the waves. The chick, fed again and tucked beneath the curve of its mother's wing, listens to these voices, deep, resonant, as old as the cliffs themselves. Stars prick the sky one by one. The newborn drifts into sleep with the wind still brushing its skin, as though it refuses to leave. In dreams, it feels the world growing larger. The cliff face, the sea's endless plain, the invisible roads in the sky waiting to be found. Somewhere in the dark, a promise lingers, that one day these fragile wings will stretch into the wind's embrace, and the horizon will no longer be a boundary but a beginning. For now, the night gathers them in, mother and child, cliff and sea, wind and stone, holding them steady in the quiet hours between the first breath and the first true flight. Morning returns in a slow unfurling of light, the kind that spills gently rather than strikes, washing the sea in layers of pale gold and honey. The tide is retreating, drawing its lace-edged hem away from the shore, leaving behind pools that mirror the sky so perfectly they seem like fragments of another world. The hatchling wakes to this softened brilliance, blinking at the delicate shift in color and shadow. Sleep still clings to its small body, but the wind is already awake, curling between the cliff's edges, tasting the salt on the air, whispering to anything with wings to come and greet the day. Its mother is near, perched on a rocky shelf not far above, wings half spread as she greets the warmth. She has already returned from the morning's first fishing flight, and the faint glisten of water still beads on her skin. The chick watches her, fascinated by the way her vast pinions drink the light, by how they tilt to invite or refuse the breeze with such effortless precision. It feels something deep inside, a stirring, an instinct as sure as hunger, that tells it those movements are its inheritance. The day has begun, warm, but the warmth is not heavy. It feels alive, buoyant. The chick stands on unsteady limbs, shifting its weight from one clawed foot to the other. Its wings are still far from the span they will one day hold, but they are longer now, stronger than they were just days ago. The membranes stretch between slender bones, catching the sunlight in a faint glow, like sunrise seen through amber leaves. The mother descends, her talons curling into the sand beside the chick. She lowers her head, nudging the small creature toward the base of the cliff where a gentle slope rises to meet a low ledge. It is not far, but the climb will take effort, and she follows closely, guiding, watching. The chick scrambles upward, clinging to patches of coarse vegetation, using the tips of its wings for balance. Each step feels like a small victory. When they reach the ledge, the view opens wide, the sea glittering below, the horizon drawn in a single patient line. The wind is stronger here, pouring upward from the waves to embrace the cliff's face. The mother steps to the edge and lets the air flow beneath her wings, her body rising slightly though her feet remain grounded. She calls once, low and resonant, and then looks to the chick. It steps forward hesitantly, the wind pressing against its chest, ruffling the fine down along its neck. The sensation is intoxicating, a pressure and a promise, urging it to open its wings. And so it does, slowly at first, then wider, feeling the membranes hum faintly as the air slides beneath. For a moment, it imagines that this might be enough, that simply standing here in the wind could lift it away from the stone entirely. The mother steps closer, extending her own wings in a broad, graceful arc, then drawing them in again. The motion is an unspoken lesson, and the chick imitates her, opening and closing its pinions, testing how the wind changes with each adjustment. The air feels alive, shifting, playful, sometimes pressing with warmth, sometimes cooling like a shadow passing over water. A gull-like call echoes from farther along the cliff, and the chick's gaze follows a pair of older juveniles gliding just above the surf. They skim the water's surface, wingtips grazing the foam before lifting again into the sky. Their movements are less certain than the adults, but they carry the undeniable thrill of freedom. The chick's heart races at the sight. For now, there will be no leap. The mother knows the time for that has not yet come. But there will be practice. She encourages her chick into short, hopping runs along the ledge, each bound accompanied by a wider spread of the wings, each landing steadier than the last. The wind catches it occasionally, lifting it just enough to surprise but not enough to frighten. The chick squeals in delight each time it feels that brief, impossible weightlessness. Hours pass in this quiet rhythm of effort and rest. Between practice runs, the chick curls in the shade, catching its breath, watching the ever-changing sky. Clouds drift lazily overhead, reshaping themselves into towering spires and soft islands, as though they too are creatures born to wander. The sound of the sea is constant, but never monotonous. It is 1,000 voices speaking at once, telling stories in foam and tide. By late afternoon, the sun has shifted toward the western horizon, and the light has taken on the warm, slanting hue of a fire, seen through amber glass. The colony stirs again as adults return from distant hunting grounds, wings glittering in the fading day. Some land nearby, offering calls of recognition. Others remain aloft, circling above the cliffs before settling in for the night. The chick watches them all with unblinking attention, memorizing each glide, each turn, each subtle negotiation with the wind. It does not know the words for what it learns, but the knowledge takes root nonetheless, growing quietly like a seed waiting for the right season. As the sky deepens into rose and violet, the mother nudges the chick back down the slope toward their sheltered spot on the sand. The practice is done for today. The wind follows them, lingering in soft eddies, carrying the scent of the open horizon, as if to remind the little one of what waits beyond. Night arrives with a gentle coolness, the stars emerging like ancient eyes opening one by one. The chick curls against its mother, wings tucked close but not entirely folded, as if unwilling to let go of the memory of the day's lessons. In its mind, it is still on the ledge, still feeling the wind lift it, still dreaming of the moment when the horizon will stop being something to look at and become something to cross. And somewhere in the dark, high above the resting colony, a lone adult glides silently beneath the stars, wings spread like the night itself, a reminder of where the path will one day lead, and of the boundless sky that is waiting to be claimed. The morning comes with the hush of a tide turning, and the scent of rain still hiding in the distance. Mist curls along the base of the cliffs, softening every line, turning stone and sea into a single watercolor dream. The chick wakes slowly, stretching each limb as though unfurling from the night itself. Beside it, the mother is already alert, eyes bright, crest catching the first touch of gold. Today, she knows, will be different. The days of simple wind practice along the ledge are ending. The sky has been patient, but now it is ready to claim what is its own. They climb the slope together, talons gripping rock still cool from the night. The climb is familiar now, each foothold remembered from earlier attempts, though the chick's steps are more certain, less hesitant. Above, the wind hums against the cliff face, its voice rising and falling in long, deep breaths. It carries with it the taste of the open horizon and the faint sweetness of inland forests, where rain has fallen in the night. The air feels charged with possibility. At the ledge, the mother takes her place at the edge. She does not leap immediately. Instead, she stands there, her wings opening in slow, graceful arcs, letting the wind fill them. The chick watches every subtle tilt, every flex of the wing's leading edge, every pause when the air pushes back. Then, with a single smooth step, she is gone. Not falling, but riding the invisible road upward, her shape bending with the wind's mood until she levels and turns, her shadow sweeping over the water below. The chick steps forward. The ledge feels narrower now, not because it has changed, but because the space beyond it is so vast. The sea stretches out to one side, the green sweep of the inland world to the other. Its heart is loud in its chest. It opens its wings, the membranes catching the air like drums catching a first strike. The wind pushes, a steady presence beneath them, and instinct takes hold. It leans forward, feet leaving stone. The first glide is clumsy, short, a swift drop that startles the breath out of it. But then the air catches and steadies the fall. For a heartbeat, the chick floats. The cliffs slide past in a blur, and the scent of the pine-tangled forest rushes up to meet it. The mother circles nearby, her presence a calm anchor in this new vastness. She tilts her wings and the chick mimics her, feeling the change in lift, the smooth curve of a turn. Below lies the green world, not just the sea's narrow band of shore, but a rolling expanse of ancient forest and river. Towering conifers stretch their crowns toward the sky, their needles whispering in the wind. Cycads, with their broad, palm-like leaves, cluster near open glades, and here and there the yellow flare of ancient flowers nods beneath the weight of insects. Rivers thread silver through the green, widening into mirror-bright lakes where the clouds seem to drift twice, once above, once below. From this height, the chick sees movement everywhere. A small herd of ceratopsians grazes along the riverbank, their frilled heads dipping and rising in unison. Farther inland, a pack of small-feathered dinosaurs darts between the trunks, their tails streaming like banners. Above the treetops, insects with wings like stained glass catch the sun and vanish in flashes. It is a world alive in every direction, a world the chick could never have imagined from the sand and the ledge alone. The flight does not last long. The young mussels tire quickly, and the air currents near the forest edge are less predictable than those over the sea. The mother leads the way back toward the cliffs, guiding her chick to a flat outcrop lower than the launch ledge but safe for landing. The arrival is awkward, wings flaring too soon, claws scraping stone, but the landing holds, and the chick collapses into a crouch, chest heaving. The ground feels oddly still after the sky. They rest there for a time, the mother keeping watch while the chick recovers. It cannot stop, replaying the moment when the wind truly caught it, when the world fell away, and the air became solid under its wings. The sensation is more than memory now. It has taken root, a hunger as real as any for food or water. The green world below is not something to merely look at anymore. It is something to cross, to explore, to belong to. Later, they launch again. This time, the flight lasts longer, weaving along the cliff face before sweeping inland toward the forest canopy. The chick learns to read the shadows where the air cools and drops, and the bright open spaces where it lifts. It sees how the mother angles her body before landing on a high, bare branch to rest and scan the world below. From here, the air carries the scent of flowers, resin, and damp earth, richer and more complex than the sea's single song of salt. As the afternoon deepens, the forest reveals more of its hidden life. A chorus of calls rises from within the green, throaty notes from creatures unseen, high trills from small arboreal lizards leaping between branches. Along the river, a ripple of motion betrays the slide of something long and reptilian into the water. In the shallows, fish flash silver and green as they scatter from the shadow of wings overhead. The mother eventually guides the flight back toward the coast, her glides longer, her climbs steadier, always keeping the young one within sight. The sea greets them with its endless motion, the sun laying down a road of gold across its surface. They land at the nesting ledge just as the wind softens for evening, folding their wings in near-perfect unison. The colony is alive with quiet bustle as the day ends. Adults exchange soft calls, preen their wings, and feed chicks of various ages. The returning pair draws glances, not from curiosity, but from a shared understanding of what has begun. The chick's world has expanded, and with it, its place among the colony has subtly shifted. It is no longer only a creature of the sand and shadow, but one who has felt the lift of the green world's breath. Night comes with the slow blooming of stars over both forest and sea. The chick settles beside its mother, muscles sore, but its heart restless with the memory of flight. The wind is quieter now, but it still carries scents from inland, resin, damp leaves, the faint musk of creatures moving under cover of dark. The green world is still out there, vast and waiting, and tomorrow the sky will open again. The dawn breaks over the sea with a gentle brush of pink and lavender, soft as the wings of a newly hatched creature unfolding for its first flight. The waves whisper to the shore, steady and unhurried, their rhythm like a heartbeat woven into the pulse of the world. The young Pteranodon wakes beneath its mother's protective shadow, wings still trembling with the memory of yesterday's flight over the green forests. The air is thick with salt and the promise of something new. Today is a day for learning the language of the sea, the dance between wing and water, the precise timing needed to claim the fish that slip like silver arrows beneath the surface. The mother rises and stretches her vast wings, the membranes glowing softly in the morning light. Her body radiates a quiet strength, a steady confidence born of countless flights skimming waves and currents. She nudges her chick gently, encouraging it to follow as she steps toward the edge of the cliff. Together, they launch into the sky, the chick's wings beating unevenly at first, but growing stronger with each stroke. The wind carries them outward, the sea opening beneath like an endless, shimmering canvas. The mother leads the way to the fishing grounds, shallow waters where schools of fish gather near the sun-dappled surface. Here, the air tastes of salt and sunlight, of ancient waters that hold the stories of millennia. The mother demonstrates the art of the hunt with practiced ease. She glides low, her sharp eyes scanning the water below. Suddenly, she dips her long beak into the waves, emerging with a wriggling fish clutched firmly. The chick watches intently, the rhythm of her movements embedding itself in its memory. Then it is the chick's turn. Tentatively, it lowers its wings, the air trembling as it leans forward. It dips toward the water, claws grazing the surface, and for a moment loses balance. But the wind catches it, steadying the fall. The fish is missed, slipping away in a flash of scales, but the lesson is clear. The sea demands patience and precision, a harmony between flight and water. The mother offers another chance, another dive, and the chick responds with growing determination. Each attempt is a brushstroke in a dance it will one day know by heart. The sea below teems with life. Schools of fish move like living clouds, their scales catching the light in waves of iridescence. Occasionally, the fin of a large marine reptile breaks the surface, a shadow moving with deliberate grace beneath the waves. The chick senses these creatures not as threats but as part of the vast, interconnected world it inhabits. Hours pass in this rhythm of practice and rest. The chick learns to trust the wind, to feel the subtle currents that signal where fish might rise. It discovers the thrill of the dive, the sweet tension of wings stretched wide against the sea-scented air. The mother never leaves its side, her presence a steady beacon in the endless blue. As the sun arcs higher, the colony on the cliffs comes alive with activity. Adults return from their own fishing flights, wings glistening with salt spray. Some feed their young with catches fresh from the sea. Others rest and preen, preparing for the next journey. The air is filled with the soft murmur of calls, a language of closeness and kinship that binds the colony together. By afternoon, the chick is growing tired, but proud. It has tasted the sea not just with its beak, but with every pulse of its wing, every breath drawn from the wind. It rests beneath its mother's wing, the warmth seeping deep into its bones. The world is vast and mysterious, but it feels less daunting now, a place where every glide, every dive, is a step toward belonging. As evening descends, painting the sky with hues of rose and amber, the wind softens, carrying the faint scent of kelp and distant rain. The mother and chick return to the nesting ledge, settling among the colony as stars begin to prickle the twilight. The chick's eyelids grow heavy, dreams filled with the endless dance of sea and sky, wings and waves, a world waiting to be explored with each new breath. And so, beneath the quiet watch of the night, the journey continues, a slow unfolding of strength, wonder, and the boundless freedom of flight, whispered on the breath of the wind. The morning light filters gently through the mist, softening the sharp edges of the cliffs and cloaking the colony in a tender haze. The world feels cocooned in quiet warmth, as if the air itself holds a secret breath waiting to be shared. Along the ledges and rocky terraces where the pteranodons gather, life stirs not in haste, but in a measured, almost ritual rhythm. Wings stretch and fold, beaks preen the delicate membranes, and calls rise like whispered prayers mingling with the sea breeze. The young Pteranodon awakens beneath the shelter of its mother's broad wing, muscles still tender from the efforts of flight and the taste of the sea. Today, the horizon calls not just for solitary journeys, but for the vibrant chorus of the colony itself, the many wings that rise and fall in unison, the countless hearts beating to the ancient rhythm of the wind. The colony is a living tapestry woven of feather and membrane, bone and breath. Scores of adults and juveniles settle into their nests, their forms clustered close yet restless, like leaves trembling before a breeze. Each individual carries the same yearning, the sky, wide and open, calling them to its vast embrace. They are not alone here. Together they make the cliff alive with movement and sound. The mother nudges her chick gently, encouraging it to rise and join the gathering. The chick's wings flutter with nervous excitement as it steps onto the ledge, toes gripping the rough stone. Around them, wings lift in slow, deliberate arcs, casting shifting shadows that dance like flames across the cliff face. The air hums with the energy of flight and companionship, the shared knowledge that this is a world best explored side by side. Groups of Pteranodons take to the sky in synchronized waves, wings beating in a rhythm that is both dance and declaration. The chick watches the older juveniles, their flight less hesitant, their movements more confident. They dip and weave, circling in loose formation over the rolling waves, the sunlight catching their membranes in flashes of pearl and amber. The sound of their calls carries like a song, low and haunting, full of longing and joy. Within the colony, bonds deepen with each shared glide and rest. Mates touch beaks in soft greeting. Wings entwine briefly in affectionate embrace. The chick senses these quiet rituals, though it does not yet understand their meaning. It only knows that the sky feels different when filled with many wings, an orchestra rather than a single voice. The day unfolds in a series of flights, rests, and lessons. The mother leads her chick through gentle exercises, teaching it to read the currents that flow like invisible rivers above the cliffs. They follow each other in looping patterns, the chick mimicking every tilt and turn, every subtle adjustment to the shifting wind. The sense of togetherness lends courage, and the chick's confidence grows with every beat of its wings. Below, the sea stretches endless and shimmering, its surface scattered with gleaming fish, and the shadows of creatures just beneath. The colony's collective flight casts fleeting shapes across the water, a living mosaic of motion and light. It is here, amid the interplay of air and sea, that the Pteranodons find both freedom and safety. The wind supports them. The colony protects them. As afternoon deepens, dark clouds gather beyond the horizon, a slow herald of change. The air thickens with the scent of impending rain, and the colony begins to descend in measured glides back toward the shelter of the cliffs. Wings fold against bodies. Calls soften into murmurs, and the pulse of the group slows. Back at the nesting ledge, the colony settles in for the evening. The chick curls beneath its mother's wing, muscles aching but spirit alight with the day's discoveries. Around them, the others preen and whisper, their forms settling into a quiet, shared rest. The wind shifts gently, carrying the scent of brine and forest, of rain yet to come. In this moment of stillness, the chick understands, though only in the softest way, that it belongs. Not just to the sky, not just to the sea, but to this living community of wings and whispers. Together they will face the coming days, storms and calm, flight and rest, life and the slow turning of the world beneath them. And as the stars begin to prickle the dusk, the wind carries the ancient song once more. A lullaby of many wings, rising and falling in timeless harmony. The sky begins its slow transformation long before the storm arrives, a subtle deepening of color that folds the horizon in heavy shades of gray and green. The air changes, thickening with moisture, still but expectant, as if the world itself holds its breath, waiting for the first drumbeat of thunder to break the silence. The colony stirs uneasily on the cliff face, the usual chorus of calls subdued beneath the gathering tension. Wings flutter nervously, eyes search the widening clouds, and the wind shifts with a restless edge. For the young Pteranodon, this day is unlike any before. The sky, once a canvas of soft blue and gold, has become a living entity, dark and unpredictable, bearing the scent of rain and distant lightning. The hatchling's heart quickens, caught between wonder and an ancient, instinctual caution. The mother senses the change as well, her vast wings folding close as she keeps the chick near, sheltering it against the encroaching chill. Thunder rumbles low and far, rolling over the cliffs like the distant echo of some giant's footsteps. The wind picks up, no longer gentle but wild and untamed, whipping across the rocky ledges with a furious voice. The colony braces itself, bodies pressed low against the stone, claws digging in for purchase. The storm is not just a challenge of survival, but a test of grace, a reminder that the air they claim is also a realm of power beyond their control. Lightning flickers across the sky in jagged ribbons, illuminating the turbulent sea below. Waves rise and crash with renewed violence, spraying salt and spray high into the swirling air. The scent of ozone mixes with the briny tang of the ocean, sharp and electric. The chick feels the storm as a living thing, a force that both terrifies and mesmerizes, weaving wild patterns in the wind song. As the first heavy drops fall, slick and cold against membrane and stone, the colony moves as one. Wings stretch wide against the gusts, talons gripping the cliff with desperate strength. The mother wraps her wing protectively around the chick, sheltering it from the driving rain and stinging spray. Together, they ride out the fury of the storm, each gust a challenge, each moment a dance with the tempest's raw might. The storm's roar is punctuated by sudden crashes, the sound of ancient cliffs struck by relentless waves. Loose stones rattle and slide, the very earth trembling beneath the weight of water and wind. Yet amidst the chaos, the pteranodons move with a quiet determination. Flight becomes a prayer, each beat of wings a steady rhythm against the storm's dissonance. For the chick, the storm is a lesson in patience and endurance. It learns to lean into the wind's wrath, to find stillness in the eye of the tempest, to trust the invisible currents that will carry it safely home. The dance is perilous but also beautiful, a wild ballet against the darkened sky. Slowly, as evening approaches, the storm begins to wane. The thunder rolls farther away, a fading echo softened by distance. Rain slackens to a gentle mist, the sea's fury calming to a restless murmur. The colony lowers itself from the sky, wings heavy but unbroken, settling back onto the cliffs with a collective sigh of relief. The aftermath is a world washed clean and shimmering. Leaves glisten with fresh rain, the air cool and fragrant with earth and sea. The chick nestles close to its mother, muscles trembling from the ordeal, but spirit unbowed. Around them, the colony murmurs softly, a shared breath of gratitude and quiet celebration. Night falls with a deep velvet calm, stars pricking through the clearing sky. The wind has softened to a gentle lullaby, carrying the scent of wet stone and distant pine. In this fragile peace, the chick dreams of wide skies and endless flight, of storms weathered and the unbroken path ahead. And somewhere beyond the stars, the wind remembers the dance, wild, fierce, and unyielding, of wings and storms, forever entwined in the story of the sky. The morning rises pale and delicate, as if the sky itself were still gathering its breath after the night's storm. The cliffs are washed clean, their white faces gleaming softly beneath a sky streaked with wisps of cloud. The sea stretches endlessly, a vast mirror reflecting the quiet promise of a new day. For the young Pteranodon, this dawn is more than a beginning. It is an invitation to journey beyond the familiar, across the wide waters that beckon with mystery and adventure. The colony awakens slowly, their calls rising in a tentative chorus that swells with the warming light. Wings stretch in unison, casting fleeting shadows over the rocky ledges as the air hums with expectancy. The mother nudges her chick gently, the touch both reassurance and encouragement. Today, the lessons of flight will extend farther than ever before, beyond the craggy cliffs and the green forests, over the boundless blue that holds secrets older than memory. They launch together, the chick's wings beating with new strength and purpose. The wind is steady, carrying them out over the surf where the water glistens like scattered gems. The air tastes of salt and distant rain, of sun-warmed stone and cool ocean currents. Below, schools of fish shimmer in shifting patterns, weaving silver threads beneath the surface. The chick feels the exhilaration of open space, the sense that the horizon is not a limit but an invitation. As they glide farther from shore, the landscape changes. The cliffs shrink into pale lines, the green forests become a textured carpet, and the sea unfolds in endless undulations of deep blue and emerald. The currents beneath them hum with life. Whales breaching in slow arcs, giant turtles surfacing for breath, and ancient ammonites spiraling in the shallows. The chick watches these creatures with wide eyes, sensing that it is part of a world vast and interwoven beyond the sky and stone. The journey is both thrilling and humbling. The wind shifts in subtle eddies, sometimes urging them upward, sometimes testing their balance. The chick learns to read these whispers, adjusting its wings to catch each invisible thread. It discovers the beauty of flight not just as movement, but as conversation, a dialogue with the air, the sea, and the light. Hours pass in this graceful dance, the mother leading with practiced ease, guiding the chick toward distant shoals rich with fish. The sea below is a living mosaic, shifting with the passage of clouds and the play of light. Occasionally, the pair dip low, skimming the water's surface, the chick's beak wet with spray as it tastes the salt and spray of the ocean. Night approaches softly, the sun dipping toward the horizon and setting the sky ablaze with hues of rose and amber. The colony, scattered across the cliffs, begins to gather again, wings folding and calls softening into a shared quiet. The mother and chick return to their nesting ledge, bodies tired but spirits buoyed by the day's wide horizons. The stars emerge slowly, one by one, pricking the dark with ancient light. The wind whispers of journeys yet to come, of paths uncharted and skies still waiting to be claimed. The chick settles beneath its mother's wing, dreams filled with the endless stretch of sea and sky, the promise of flight that carries beyond the edges of the world, and somewhere, carried on the wind's eternal breath, the story of wings across the wide waters continues, an unending flight into the heart of time itself. The morning light is softer now, tinted with the faintest whispers of amber and mauve, as if the world itself is holding its breath. The air carries a different scent, less the pure salt and pine of earlier days, more a mingling of warmth and moisture, like the first sighs of a season shifting unseen. The cliffs stand quiet beneath a sky woven with slow-moving clouds, their shadows drifting lazily over the land and sea. For the colony of Pteranodons, this is a time of subtle change, a time when the very breath of the world begins to alter, and with it, the fragile rhythm of their lives. The young Pteranodon wakes beneath its mother's wing, muscles still strong from the wide flights across the water, but the spirit senses a new question in the air. Together, they climb toward the familiar ledge, the wind no longer steady but uneven, sometimes warm and caressing, sometimes sharp and restless. The mother watches the shifting currents with a quiet alertness, knowing the lessons of patience that come with every change in the sky. Their flights this morning are shorter, cautious. The chick learns to listen for the subtle cues carried on the breeze, the distant rumble of storms moving inland, the scent of earth mingled with salt, the sudden gusts that unsettle the wings. The currents are less predictable now, folding in ways that speak of shifting seasons, and the colony moves with care, each glide a negotiation with a wind that no longer feels quite the same. Below, the forests ripple with change as well. Leaves shimmer with the first touch of frost that has not yet come, the underbrush thick with the quiet stirrings of creatures preparing for colder days. The rivers, once generous and full, begin to retreat, their banks lined with exposed stones and dried reeds. The green world the chick first saw in flight now seems to hold its breath too, waiting for what is to come. In the sky, older members of the colony share low calls, their voices carrying a note of warning or perhaps farewell. The chick listens without understanding, but the tone settles into its bones like a promise and a caution both. The air remembers every flight, every moment, and in these changing currents lies a story still unfolding, one of endurance, adaptation, and the slow turning of time. As the day wears on, the wind grows stronger and more capricious. The mother guides the chick through the dance of adjustment, teaching it to read the sudden shifts, to fold and spread its wings with new finesse. The lessons are hard-earned but vital. The sky is a living thing, and to live within it requires more than strength. It demands grace and attunement. The sea beyond the cliffs mirrors the sky's unrest. Waves pound with greater force, sending spray high above the rocks. Fish schools scatter and reform, their movements nervous and swift beneath the churning surface. The colony's flights take on a tentative edge, gliding lower or rising higher to avoid the turbulent air. Evening falls with a quiet urgency. The sun sinks behind a veil of clouds, casting long shadows over the cliffs and sea. The colony returns to its nests with the wings weary but unbroken, settling into the dusk with an unspoken understanding of the changes ahead. The chick, nestled close to its mother, feels the weight of the shifting world, but also the strength of the bonds that hold them together. The colony, the wind, the endless sky. Stars begin to pierce the darkening canopy, faint but steadfast. The wind carries their faint calls, a melody both ancient and new. And in this moment, the chick dreams not only of flight and freedom, but of the journey that continues beyond every horizon. The journey of life, change, and the ever-turning air. The day dawns with a soft chill, a coolness that seems to seep not just into the air, but into the very bones of the cliffs and creatures that call them home. The sun rises behind a veil of thin clouds, casting a muted light that silvers the sea and dims the vibrant greens of the forest. The colony stirs quietly, as if sensing a subtle shift in the balance of the world. A shadow moving slowly across the sky, not a storm, but a harbinger of change that draws the eye and quickens the heartbeat. For the young Pteranodon, this day is marked by new sights and sounds, distant calls not like those of the colony, strange silhouettes that flicker against the horizon. The mother watches these newcomers with wary eyes, their forms sleeker and quicker, wings sharper, and movements more daring. They are the early birds, creatures born of air and sky but different, creatures whose flight carries a hint of the future that will one day unfold beyond this ancient world. The colony's elders respond with a low chorus of calls, notes tinged with caution and resolve. The skies feel crowded now, the space once claimed without question shared with these newcomers who challenge the old ways of flight and hunting. The young one senses the tension without understanding it fully, the subtle dance of power and presence that unfolds in the quiet spaces between wings and wind. Flight takes on a new rhythm. The mother leads her chick through the necessary lessons of awareness and adaptability, guiding it to recognize not just the wind's currents, but the movements of others in the air. They practice swift turns, sudden rises, and careful descents, maneuvers born of necessity as much as grace. The younger Pteranodon learns to carve space amidst the shifting shadows, to hold its place with growing confidence. Below, the green world remains vibrant but restless. New sounds echo from the forests, the calls of unfamiliar creatures, the rustle of wings that are not its own. The rivers wind through the landscape like veins of silver. Yet even their steady flow seems touched by change. The land itself hums with a silent promise of transformation, the slow turning of seasons and epochs. The sea reflects this restlessness as well, the waves breaking more sharply against the cliffs, the surface broken by darting fish and the occasional rise of larger marine life. The Pteranodon skim the water's edge with renewed alertness, their hunting flights tempered by the knowledge that the air is no longer empty, that shadows now share the sky. Evening descends with a quiet melancholy. The sun sinks low, casting elongated shadows that stretch like fingers across the cliffs. The colony gathers once more, wings folding against bodies, calls softening into murmurs. The mother and chick settle among the rocks, the young one nestling close, muscles tired, but spirit awakened to the complexities of a world in flux. The night sky, clear and expansive, holds a tapestry of stars, ancient and unwavering. Yet beneath that constancy lies the knowledge that nothing remains still forever, that the shadows in the sky are both challenge and call, invitation and warning. And so, the young Pteranodon dreams of flight not only as freedom, but as resilience, the promise of wings that will carry it through the coming changes, through the shifting dance of light and shadow across the vast, endless sky. The wind arrives before dawn, carrying with it a strange emptiness. It is not the crisp, salt-sweet air of a calm morning, nor the restless breath of an approaching storm. It is thinner somehow, stretched, as though the sky itself has grown tired. From their ledges, the colony stirs in quiet unease, wings rustling in half-hearted stretches. The sea below, instead of welcoming the sunrise with its usual glittering dance, lies darker and more unsettled, its edges clawing at the cliffs in slow, deliberate surges. The young Pteranodon wakes beneath its mother's wing, blinking at the half-light. Over the past days, something has shifted, not just in the air, but in the land and water as well. Familiar resting spots along the coast have vanished under the rising tide. Sandbars that once glowed golden in the afternoon sun are now hidden beneath churning water. The mother knows these changes too well. Her flights have grown longer, her searches for safe roosts more frequent. They launch together into the muted morning, the chick's wings stronger now, but still not built for endless distance. The cliffs fall away behind them, replaced by a coastline that looks subtly different with each passing week. Where there were once wide, flat terraces for the colony to rest between flights, there are now only narrow shelves of rock, some crumbling under the ceaseless bite of waves. Inland, the green world remains lush, but the pull of the sea is unshakable. The mother leads her young one along the coast, scanning for places to land. They pass coves where the tide has swallowed the beach entirely, leaving only the sheer rise of cliff walls. Once familiar rookeries lie silent, the cries of other colonies absent where they used to fill the air like a living chorus. When they find a resting place, it is small and crowded, a sliver of rock already occupied by others from their own colony. Wings fold tightly, talons grip slick stone, and there is little room to move. The young one feels the press of bodies on every side, the closeness a far cry from the open, breezy spaces it knew only moons ago. Here, the air smells of damp feathers and fatigue, and the wind seems reluctant to linger. As the day warms, they take to the sky again, the search for food now tied to the search for land. The sea is generous in its own way. Silver schools still gather, their bodies glinting just beneath the surface. But the spaces to pause, to dry wings, to simply rest between hunts, grow scarcer with each journey. Even the older pteranodons tire more quickly, their glides broken by the need to find somewhere, anywhere, to land. By late afternoon, the horizon is brushed with haze, and the air feels heavy with the promise of change. The mother guides the young one toward a small island far from the main cliff. It is nothing more than a ridge of rock with a few stubborn plants clinging to it, but it offers a flat enough surface to roost for the night. The landing is rough. The wind swirls unpredictably around the island's edges, and the stone is slick with spray. Still, it is a place to rest, and tonight, that is enough. The colony is scattered here, not in the great numbers that once filled the ledges back home, but in smaller, tighter clusters. There are fewer calls in the air, fewer shadows overhead when the sun dips toward the horizon. The young one notices it without fully understanding, the quiet that comes when there are fewer voices left to sing. As darkness settles, the sea glows faintly in places, the water alive with drifting lights from tiny creatures that rise from the depths. The young one watches them until sleep comes, the soft shimmer below a fragile mirror to the stars above. The mother remains awake longer, her eyes turned toward the open water, as if searching for something beyond the line where sky meets sea. When dawn comes again, they will search once more, for fish, for wind, for stone, that can bear the weight of wings. But tonight, under the watch of the quiet sea, they rest in the knowledge that the world is changing, and that their journey will take them farther and farther before home can be found again. The wind that greets them at dawn is stronger than usual, not the choppy, uneven gusts that chase the waves into the cliffs, but a long, steady current that seems to hum with purpose. The mother stands on the narrow rock ledge, crest tilted toward the open horizon, tasting the air as though listening to a voice carried across leagues of sea. The young Pteranodon feels it too, the strange, almost solemn pull of the sky, as if the day itself were inviting them farther than they have ever flown before. The colony is already stirring. There is a quiet urgency among the adults, a shifting of wings and a scanning of the distance. This is no ordinary foraging flight. It is a journey to seek what has been lost. Safer shores, richer waters, a place where the wind will carry them without restlessness. The mother nudges her young one forward, and with a final glance at the shrinking island behind them, they launch into the morning. The air lifts them easily, the sea rolling beneath in long, slow swells that catch the light in silver arcs. Behind them, the cliffs and coves fade to memory, replaced by the vast openness of the ocean. For hours they ride the high currents, barely moving their wings, letting the invisible roadways of the sky carry them farther and farther from the familiar. The young one glances down often, mesmerized by the vastness below, the shadowed ridges of reefs, the darting flashes of fish, the slow rise of a giant turtle to the surface before it slips under again. By midday, the coastline is gone entirely. There is only the meeting of sea and sky, an unbroken horizon that seems to stretch forever. The air here smells different, fresher, cooler, tinged with the faint scent of far-off rain. Other members of the colony fly in loose formation, their silhouettes rising and falling like the dark shapes of drifting clouds. Every so often, the young one calls out, and the calls are returned, the sound small against the great hush of the open water. The journey is not without its challenges. The wind shifts in unexpected eddies, testing their balance. At times, the air grows still, forcing them to work their wings harder, each beat a drain on their strength. The young one's muscles ache, but the mother glances back often, her steady flight a wordless encouragement. Rest comes only in brief pauses, when they circle low and let the wind buoy them just enough to recover. By late afternoon, the sun is a gold coin balanced on the edge of the world. The air has cooled, and shadows begin to lengthen across the swells. In the distance, faint and hazy, a shape begins to form. Not the sheer cliffs of their old home, but low, dark land, ringed with pale beaches and edged in green. The mother tilts her wings, and the young one follows, the promise of solid ground drawing them onward. When they finally reach it, the light is fading fast. The island is wild and windswept, its shoreline strewn with driftwood, and its higher slopes covered in dense, unfamiliar vegetation. The landing is awkward after so many hours in the air, talons slipping on the damp sand before finding their grip. The young one folds its wings, trembling from fatigue, but filled with the exhilaration of the crossing. The sea's roar here is deeper, the rhythm slower, as if the waves themselves are resting after the day's long pull. Only part of the colony has made it by nightfall. Others are still in the sky, their dark forms faint against the deepening blue. The mother keeps her young close, watching the horizon for each returning silhouette. The air is thick with the scent of salt and greenery, the calls of distant seabirds mixing with the steady rush of the tide. Under the rising moon, the young one settles against her side, eyelids heavy. The island feels strange beneath its claws, softer than rock, warmer than the cliffs, but for now it is a place to rest, a place to breathe. Tomorrow will bring new flights, new searches, perhaps more journeys over the endless water. But tonight the wind curls softly around them, carrying the unspoken truth. The last great flight has brought them here, and the sky will never be quite the same again. The night after their long crossing is cool and damp, the air filled with the soft rustle of leaves from the unfamiliar trees that crown the island's slopes. The tide ebbs slowly, leaving lines of seaweed and shells along the shore, each one catching the pale light of the moon. The young Pteranodon sleeps deeply beneath its mother's wing. The day's journey heavy in its bones, yet somewhere in its dreams it is still in flight. The endless blue below, the warm current lifting, the horizon forever just ahead. When morning comes, it is slow and hazy. Mist clings to the island, curling around rocks and drifting low over the beach. The colony moves with quiet reserve. This is not the bustling chatter of the cliffside home, but a subdued, almost reverent pace. Every bird seems to know that this is not a place to claim for long. The island is a refuge, not a home, and the wind already speaks of movement yet to come. The mother leads her young one down to the shore. The sand here is soft and dark, sinking slightly beneath their weight. The sea is calmer than the day before, the surface smooth enough to reflect the slow drift of clouds above. A few others from the colony fish in the shallows, their silhouettes bending and lifting in a graceful rhythm. The young one watches, feeling no urgency to join. Its body still asks for rest. Its wings still hum faintly with the memory of strain. They spend the day in gentle, unhurried flights over the island's edges, circling just high enough to feel the air cradle them. The wind here is different, softer, warmer, carrying scents of flowers and fruit from the island's heart. From above, the forest appears like a woven quilt of greens and golds, stitched with the silver thread of a stream winding toward the sea. There is food here and shelter, yet still the island feels temporary, a pause in the greater song of the sky. In the quiet of midday, the young one finds a high perch where the sea can be seen in every direction. The view is vast and gentle all at once, not the endless emptiness of the crossing, but a ring of possibility. The wind brushes lightly along its crest, lifting the edges of its wings in a soothing, almost lulling motion. Eyes half closed, it leans into the breeze, letting it hold some of its weight, letting the air become, for a moment, as solid as the ledge beneath its claws. The mother joins it there, landing with the whisper of practiced grace. Together they stand, watching the sun move across the sky. No words pass between them, only the shared language of presence, the way their shadows merge on the stone, the way they shift in unison when the wind changes. It is a moment of quiet belonging, a reminder that sometimes the greatest flight is the one that leads to stillness. As evening deepens, the colony gathers again along the open shore. The air cools, and the wind freshens just enough to lift loose feathers into slow spirals. Some take short flights along the water's edge, wingtips skimming the waves. Others simply stand with their faces turned toward the horizon, as if measuring the distance to the next journey. The young one feels the stirrings of that same call, faint now, but growing with each day of rest. The moon rises over the sea, its light spilling like silver milk across the waves. The wind carries its scent, cool and clean, and the young one breathes it in deeply. The crossing has changed it. Its wings feel longer, its heart stronger. But more than that, it understands the wind in a new way. It is not just a force to lift and carry, it is a companion, a memory keeper, a silent guide through the great spaces between. Under that moonlight, it stands on the edge of the rocks, wings half spread, eyes fixed on the faraway dark line where sky and sea meet. The wind curls beneath its feathers, holding it steady, and for a long time it does not move. It simply rests there, balanced between earth and sky, listening to the quiet song of the air. And somewhere in that stillness, the wind whispers of tomorrow, of the skies yet to be crossed, the shores yet to be found, and the way it will always return to lift those who are ready to rise again. The first light of dawn touches the island like a whisper, painting the sea in strokes of pale rose and liquid gold. The air is still, holding the delicate quiet that comes before the day begins in earnest. High on the windward side, the colony stirs without haste, wings unfolding slowly, as though each movement is part of some ancient ritual. There is no rush in their waking. The sky, after all, has waited for eons. It will wait another moment more. The young Pteranodon stands on a rocky outcrop, crest tilted toward the horizon. The wind brushes past gently, as if greeting an old friend, curling beneath the wings in a familiar, comforting way. These wings have carried it across forests and storms, over the open sea, and into the company of countless others whose shadows once crowded the sky. Now, those skies are quieter. Flights are smaller. The voices of the colony no longer rise in the great, rolling chorus that once marked the cliffs each morning. Yet the wind still moves, carrying their memory as surely as it carries the scent of salt and the cool touch of clouds. The mother joins her young one, though it is young no longer. The form beside her is strong and sure, a creature now fully shaped by the air's lessons. They stand together in silence, watching the line where sea meets sky. The horizon is both an ending and a beginning, and they feel it deep in their bones. The knowledge that all wings, no matter how strong, eventually fold. All journeys, no matter how far, eventually rest. The day passes gently. Some of the colony take to the air, their glides long and slow, not to hunt, but simply to feel the wind once more. Others perch along the ridges, eyes closed against the sun, as if drinking in the warmth to carry into the cooler nights ahead. The young one flies too, tracing lazy spirals above the island, the sea stretching endlessly in every direction. Each turn feels both like a farewell and a promise, a quiet acknowledgement that this, too, will one day pass. By afternoon, the air changes again. Not with the threat of storms or the restless push of migration, but with a deep, almost imperceptible stillness. It is the kind of calm that speaks not of pause, but of conclusion. The sea mirrors the sky, the waves subdued, the surface shining as though it has been polished by time itself. Even the calls of the colony soften, their voices folding into the larger hush of the world. The young one lands beside its mother on a high sunlit ridge. They face the wind together, wings half spread, eyes fixed on the horizon. There is no urgency now, only presence. The air holds them gently, cradling them the way it did on the first day they stood at the cliff's edge, long ago. The wind has been both teacher and companion. It has carried them, challenged them, and remembered them. As the sun begins its slow descent, shadows stretch long over the rocks, and the island glows in warm amber light. The mother closes her eyes, and the young one, now grown, does the same. In that shared stillness, the past drifts close. The memory of hatching on sun-warmed sand, the first hesitant glides, the green sweep of the inland forests, the wide, endless crossings over the sea. All of it lives here, folded into the air, carried in the silent currents that move across the world. Night falls with the gentleness of a tide coming in. Stars emerge one by one, their reflections shimmering faintly in the darkening water. The colony settles, each shape becoming part of the island's silhouette against the sky. The wind moves among them softly, as though gathering the last threads of the day's story. Somewhere high above, where the air grows thin and cold, the sky keeps its quiet ledger, the record of every wing that has ever risen into its embrace. It remembers the thunder of colonies taking flight at once, the glint of sunlight on membranes stretched wide, the solitary shapes gliding beneath moonlight. And it remembers these two, standing together at the edge of the world, resting on the wind's eternal breath. In time, the wings will fold, the voices will fade, and the shores will empty. But the sky will keep them, not in sadness, but in the way the sea keeps the reflection of clouds, or the way the wind carries the scent of rain long after the storm has passed. The flight will go on, somewhere beyond sight, carried in the breath of the world. And so, as the night deepens and the stars wheel slowly overhead, the Pteranodons sleep beneath the wind's watchful care. The story, for now, is complete, but the sky remembers, and in that memory they are forever flying.